Welcome everyone. Today, welcome to our presentation on the Coping Skills Toolbox, helping your child with anxiety. My name is Tina Smith and I am a counselor for CFB employees. Today, we're going to talk about ways that you can help your child manage anxiety. So first off, what is anxiety and what does it look like? Well, anxiety is basically the feeling of nervousness or unease, typically about an event or something that we have an uncertain outcome about, that there's an unknown about. So it's common to have anxiety about the fear of the unknown. And we know that our children and ourselves are experiencing much anxiety related to the COVID-19 pandemic, performance in schools, along with much, much more. So anxiety is also, it's stress, and it's our body's way of responding to any kind of demand or threat. So when we sense danger, whether it's real or imagined, the body's defense kicks into high gear. So we have this rapid automatic process known as the flight or fight reaction, also known as the stress response. So you may feel different physical reactions in your body, such as sweating, heart beating fast, shaking, having a flushed face, etc. So some symptoms that we can actually look at of anxiety and stress are some cognitive symptoms. This may be things like struggling, having memory problems, trouble of focusing, having those racing ongoing thoughts, a sense of constant worrying, and also seeing only the negative, focused on the negative. Now, some symptoms of anxiety and stress that are emotional could come across as depression, moodiness, irritability, anger, that feeling of being very overwhelmed, loneliness and isolation, and other mental or emotional problems. Now, physically, we can also experience stress and anxiety. Like I mentioned earlier, having our heart racing, chest pain, sometimes experiencing nausea or dizziness, sometimes gastrointestinal issues, also just general aches, pains, and tension. So some behaviors that we can look at that may be symptoms of anxiety or stress are changes in appetite, so maybe eating more or less, sleeping too much or sleeping too little, withdrawing from others, procrastinating and often neglecting responsibilities, sometimes using substance abuse as a way to try to cope, and also nervous habits such as maybe fidgeting a lot, nail biting, pacing, having a lot of restlessness. So these are some things you can pay attention to if you're starting to notice behavior changes and things in your child that may show that they are having symptoms of anxiety or stress. So let's get into how do we help our child with the anxiety and help them manage it. Well, as a parent, the goal is not to eliminate anxiety completely, because that is something that's not in our control. But we can help our children learn how to manage anxiety in healthy ways. Parents can help by listening to their child, providing empathy, validating their emotions, and expressing positive but realistic expectations. So it's first and foremost, it's important to teach our children that anxiety and that emotions are neither good nor bad. Emotions are simply signals from our body that are trying to tell us that something is going on. So we ask ourselves, what is this feeling trying to tell me? For example, feeling stressed may be our body's way of telling us we need to pause, we need to slow down a bit and practice some self-care. It is normal and it is okay to feel our emotions. And it's important that we first teach our children how to identify, express, and communicate those emotions. So we're now going to utilize our coping skills toolbox to use that to be able to help children implement coping skills that's going to help with addressing and managing emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, specifically anxiety. So the coping skills toolbox, it's a 3-step method. First, step 1 is we are going to measure. Using our measuring tape, we're going to measure how do we feel. Step 2 is going to be deciding which coping skill to use. So that can resemble different tools in your toolbox. And step 3 is going to be using our level. So leveling and balancing to check and see, how do we feel now? How did that coping skill work for us? So now we're going to go into detail about each step. So the 3-step process, going back to step 1 with the measuring tape. This means we are going to help our child identify and measure how they are feeling. So for older children, we may ask them to identify how they're feeling and also how intense is that emotion they're feeling. Using a list of emotions or even an emotion wheel. So this is a wheel of emotions. You can also find a picture of these wheel of emotions just online for free. But these list all different types of emotions, especially if it's hard to just come up like I can't quite identify it. It gives the child something to like, oh yeah, I'm feeling this emotion, and it can really help them identify which emotion or combination of emotions that they are feeling. Now, for younger children, we can utilize color zones, and this is a great technique to help them be able to identify their feelings. So there are 3 color zones. Think of a stoplight. We have a green zone, yellow zone, red zone. So what the green zone means is that we are feeling low levels of stress, low levels of anxiety. We're ready to learn. We're ready to problem solve. We're feeling focused, we're relaxed, self-regulated, we're happy. So green means go. Green means we are good to go. Now, the yellow zone is maybe we're feeling a little bit of stress, feeling some emotions, some sadness, some anxiousness, having a hard time focusing, a little upset. So this is where we want a yellow zone to slow down a little bit. So we're still able to learn and to perform, but something a little bit is going on, and we want to make sure that it doesn't intensify and then lead to the red zone. The red zone means stop. Stop, because we are feeling a toxic level of stress, panic, angry, feeling overwhelmed, depressed, isolated, unable to focus or get things accomplished. So in that state, it is hard to be able to reason or be ready to go ahead and learn, because we have really intense emotions going on that we need to first address with some coping skills in order to help get through those emotions and self-regulate. So with that, again, remember, we can have our kids say, I'm in the green zone, I'm in the yellow zone, I'm in the red zone, as just a basic check-in as how they're feeling, especially if they have a hard time coming up with the words like, I'm feeling overwhelmed or something. The zones help them be able to be able to identify and to relate to that and be able to express how they are feeling. Now, step 2 is going to be the tools. So the different tools in our toolbox are going to represent different coping skills. So we're going to help with our child identify or teach them how to identify which coping skill or tool that they maybe could use to help manage their anxiety, emotions, and self-regulate. So to cope simply means to handle something successfully. So we want to be able to implement positive coping skills. Positive coping skills enable us to restore to that emotional balance, that self-regulation, feel better about ourselves, and they are also respectful of ourselves, others, and property, and they help us solve the problem. So just a short list of some coping skills that are some examples are taking a break, drawing, listening to music, getting moving, exercise, maybe going outside, changing our environment, doing things like yoga or mindfulness, playing outside, practicing deep breathing, reading a book we enjoy, talking to someone we trust. So there are tons and tons of coping skills, and also knowing what your child maybe enjoys and likes to do, that might be a great way to start as a list of some coping skills that they could implement that's going to help them come back and regulate. So now we're going to focus a little bit on some specific techniques and tools that can help as far as coping skills. So first, we're going to look at some breathing exercises. Breathing exercises help us refocus on the present moment, and they help us calm those big emotions, and they really help our body settle and calm. So there's a few different techniques, there's many out there, but one of them is called square breathing that we can teach that we can teach our children. So basically, you imagine a square. So you're going to draw a square with your finger. You're going to count to 4 as you draw the top of the square. Take a deep breath in. Hold that for 4, going down the side of the square. Then breathe out and hold that for 4. So square breathing gives us basically an image kind of that we can follow that's going to help with that breathing, whereas maybe just telling a child to take some deep breaths in and out, that's not going to be as helpful probably. Older children, yes, but this really helps. Another thing that we can do is show them pretzel breathing. Pretzel breathing is we're going to put our arms out, palms out, clasp, and we're going to make a pretzel. We're going to breathe in, make that pretzel, and we're going to breathe out and unfold that pretzel. Also using bubbles maybe to blow in and out, and also asking a child, hey, can you pretend to blow out birthday candles? Take a deep breath in and blow out those candles. So those are some breathing techniques that we can help our children do and guide them with. The next type of coping skill we're going to look at is grounding techniques. So grounding is basically using our 5 senses, and they can be especially helpful in times of intense anxiety, intense panic, and it helps the child come back to the present moment, kind of get out of their head and come back to that present moment. What you can do is you can ground with your 5 senses. You can ask your child to name 5 things they can see. Maybe they can see the sun, they can see the wall, they can see a pencil. 5 things they can see. Then we're going to do 4 things that they can feel. Maybe they can feel the hard table in front of them, the seat they are sitting in. The next thing is 3 things they can hear. Maybe they hear the sound of your voice, cars outside. 2 things they can smell, and then maybe 1 thing they can taste, like a mint or something like that. So you're having them focus on their 5 senses, which will help ground them and bring them back down to the here and now and present, and give them something else to focus on, especially if they're feeling very panicked and anxious and overwhelmed and upset. The next part of coping skills that we're going to talk about is practicing mindfulness. So mindfulness is, and it's such a buzzword nowadays, so mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not being overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. So in other words, mindfulness is simply our ability to be present and in the moment. Benefits of mindfulness include lower stress and better performance. Now, mindfulness takes practice. It is very hard often to quiet these anxieties and racing thoughts and being present in the moment. Something that helps me is being outside in nature and trying to focus on things like the birds I'm hearing or the things that I'm seeing right in front of me. And we also have to be kind to our wandering mind. If our mind starts wandering to the worries, we simply acknowledge it and try to bring it back. So a great way to help us with getting into the practice of mindfulness is using things like the guided meditations, things like on YouTube or Go Noodle. They have tons of mindfulness exercises, short ones, but they really walk you through it. And there's lots of ones that are very fun, almost and kid-friendly, that helps bring them in the moment and has a sense of calm after we have done that practice. Now, another thing that we can do to help set our children up for success and to give them a safe space when they're feeling really anxious and overwhelmed is we can set up a calming corner or a calming kit. So a calming corner is basically, it's designed to be a space in a home, in the classroom, where the sole intent is to be in a safe place for the child to be able to go when their emotions are running really, really high and they need to regain their emotional and physical control. So this is not used as a punishment, it's used as an option, as a way to help the child be able to self-regulate and use coping skills. So some things that this might consist of is calm music, maybe even soundproof headphones, soft toys, pillows, fidget toys, squeeze balls. We have things, this is the Hoverman smear. This also helps with breathing. Breathe in, breathe out. Some other things we have in our calming kit that can be helpful. Think a lot about two very tactile things, very sensory items. You know, we have different squeeze toys and fidgets. We can do something like a Rubik's Cube, some more fidget toys. These are really popular right now are the Pop-Its. If you don't have this, even using bubble wrap or something to give the child something to physically pop and do. Different kinds of squeeze balls, even some Play-Doh, fidget spinners as well. And then glitter jars to help us settle our glitter. And these are very, very easy to make. All you need is water, some clear soap or clear glue. So in here I put, I think about this much, some glitter. So what you can do is put that all together. It's even a craft you can do with your kids. Shake it up, and then it's really soothing to look at it and watch the glitter settle just as our emotions are starting to settle. It's a very calming effect. Some other things we want to give some options are allowing the child to maybe journal out their thoughts, or to journal maybe about a happy memory or a safe place to them. Mindfulness coloring, setting up space where they can do some coloring too. That is a very relaxing and soothing activity. And also having some different social emotional books and things like that that they may like to read. This book is called Breathe Like a Bear. This one's a very, very cute book for young children. So you can create your own calming kit, your own calming corner. And it's pretty simple. You can even find things that are completely free, like using things like pipe cleaners and all of that. So there's lots of different options there, and that's really great for the kids to be able to kind of work out that nervous energy too if they have something tactile. Now, the next technique that is a good coping skill is reframing our thoughts. So with feelings of anxiety, it often becomes negative thinking. Our brain kind of goes to the worst case scenario, to the negative thinking. So it is important to encourage our children to try their best and help them identify realistic expectations and goals. So the focus is on being realistic. So an example of helping our children reframe their thoughts is when a child may say, when I get anxious and frustrated, I just give up, can't do it. We can help them reframe that into more positive. If I feel anxious or frustrated, I can take a break and I can use my coping skills and then I can try again. So reframing from the negative to the positive, that can be very helpful. So that's kind of that growth mindset type idea. Now, another great thing to use is the circle of control. We often have a lot of anxiety about so many things we can't control. So the fear of the unknown is also, that's a huge reason for anxiety. So what you can do is you can help your child, you can have a piece of paper, draw a circle on that paper. Outside of the circle, we're gonna write the things that we cannot control. On the inside of the circle, we're gonna write down the things that we ourselves have control over. So, for instance, this is getting us to think also logically too. An example may be, outside the circle, I cannot control other people's actions, right? But what I can control is how I respond or react to them. So that is just one example of using that circle of control. Another technique we can use with anxiety is scheduled worry time. So you can schedule worry time, and it depends on what time of day is best for you. Oftentimes, a lot of anxiety may come about at night with racing thoughts and worries about upcoming things to do and feeling really overwhelmed. So scheduling about 15 to 20 minutes every day that the child may write or draw, something like that, all the worries they have. And there's a timer. They can only spend that much time on it. So they're writing down everything they're worried about. And once that time is over, they are physically closing the journal and putting that journal away to help them get the worries off their mind. There's something about physically putting them on paper and the action of shutting, saying, okay, now if I'm still feeling worried, I can revisit that at worry time tomorrow, but right now I'm putting them away and I am trying to get those worries out of my mind. Now, once we've utilized a lot of these different coping skills, one of these coping skills, we want to use our level, step 3. So the level represents assessing how your child feels after they've used the coping skill. Are they feeling calmer? Are they feeling more balanced, more regulated? Did the coping skill work, or should we try another coping skill? So basically, as parents, we're there to provide support. We're there to listen. We're to understand, which is so crucial to helping our child manage anxiety. So teaching these skills and coping skills are really going to set our children up for success in coping with anxiety and other emotions in the future. And it's helpful to even have your child brainstorm lots of different coping ideas and having a list. That way, when they are in the moment, they already have some ideas of some things that they can try, because in the moment it can be kind of hard to maybe think about those things. So we haven't thought about what we could do. So now we also wanted to give you guys some helpful resources. So one of the books I really love is Don't Feed the Worry Bug by Andy Green. Also, we will have basically our coping skills, our coping strategies, and our helpful resources. There'll be a link to these so you have access to that, okay? So Don't Feed the Worry Bug by Andy Green. That's a great children's book about addressing anxiety. Now, some apps that can be really helpful too is the Calm app, Headspace. Both these apps have a lot of different things like virtual calming. They have coping skills. They have those guided mindfulness exercises, calming music, lots of different resources on there. Also, the yoga workout, meditation, and fitness plan is another app that's really helpful, because it is also important to take care of our bodies, make sure we are addressing our physical needs as well, so that we can better manage things and stresses going on in our life. And also the calming app too, which I forgot to mention. They have some also really great stories, and they also have lots of different links and things that can show you some more resources too. So these are some really great apps. Another great app and thing, this is not an app, excuse me. A website is GoNoodle. You can even go to YouTube, type in GoNoodle. One of the guided meditations and mindfulness that's really, really great, it's called Melting. It's like a 2-3 minute video through GoNoodle that walks children through a calming exercise, a mindfulness exercise. Then also Parenting Chaos, that's a website that lists several different apps for children experiencing anxiety and big emotions. So they have tons of resources on there. So lastly, I want to leave you with places where you can get help. So these will also be posted, so you will have access to this. So the crisis text line, that's 24/7 support. All you do is text HOME, HOME, to 741-741. 24/7, and a crisis counselor will respond, will help talk you through things, and will also get you connected to local resources. The National Suicide Prevention Line, that is also 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call 1-800-273-TALK, and also in Spanish, you can call 1-888-628-9454. They can also help get you in touch with resources and help in the middle of a crisis. So other things you can do is reach out to your school counselor, especially your child is really struggling with anxiety. They can provide resources, and they can also provide referrals for something that is called TChat, and that is Texas Health Access through telemedicine through Children's Health. So that provides for your child, that provides virtual therapy that they can use, and that can help them with these big emotions and anxiety. And lastly, we have our CFB ISD Counseling Connection Center, which is completely free to any of our students and staffs and families of CFB ISD. And their office phone number is 972-968-6620. So these resources will be posted, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. And thank you so much for joining us.